welcome to Storm Raven Studios and welcome to this painting tutorial. In this video we are going to be painting a Space Marine. It's going to be an Ultramarine. I want a couple of notes on this video before we start. First one is the length of the video. It's quite long. I've been thinking about cropping a lot of it out, and this is how I made the video. I'm going to leave it because I want to be able to come back to this in the future and see how I've changed stuff, how my camera skills have changed, how my editing skills have changed. So because I've made this video, I've left it. The other thing that is going to be a big difference in this video, as I was doing the editing of the footage, I was going to do a voiceover afterwards like I am now, but I realised that all the information that I would be doing I've already said in the video, so I've left that in. Basically, I was teaching my son how to paint his Ultramarines, so I'm actually talking to him. He's there with the camera, so instead of me going over all of it again and doing a voiceover, I've just left the audio in. What I've done is the bits that aren't relevant I've cropped out and fast forwarded the footage so that it is a little bit shorter. Okay, so guys, if you like the video, hit the like button, please subscribe, please press the bell, please like and share, leave a comment. I hope you enjoy the video, and I will speak to you in the next one. What I'm going to do to start with, when you look at how you paint models, there's so many different ways to actually paint a model. So some people say paint the armor first, some people say paint the details first, blah blah blah. You know, there's a list really. What I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to paint the deepest parts, because when I come to highlight the armor, I can touch up these bits here.
Yeah.
So by getting this black bit done first, if I make a mistake I can easily touch up afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with black, and what I'm going to do with my black is I'm going to cheat a little bit on a couple of different bits. Now obviously I'm using a wet palette, which are fucking amazing. Just gonna sneak in. White as well, yeah. Because what I'm actually gonna do is I'm not gonna paint it black, I'm gonna paint it grey. Make sure you thin down your paints. How's it looking?
Yeah, looks alright.
Alright. So, all I'm going to do is just take this grey and I'm going to fill in all the black part, all these rubber little trimmy bits or metal trimmy bits, whatever they are. Now, one of the most important things to do is to take your time. Patience with this, because the less mistakes you make now, the less tidying up you got to do a bit later on. Alright? So I am painting these quite light grey. They're not black. Sometimes you paint them silver, sometimes you paint them black, it's up to you really. But I'm just going for a bit of a different tone of these really. And again, it's just all about taking the time, blocking in some details. See, I've gone over, I don't know if you can see that, but I've gone over there a little bit. Can you see that?
Not really.
So I've just made a little bit of a mistake. Doesn't really matter because I'm going to highlight the armour and I will tidy up my highlight. So one thing I'm going to say, are you seeing this alright?
Yep.
Obviously you can't really see everything I'm doing at this point because of obviously the camera, but I'm not massively going to start worrying about hitting all the details on the underneath parts. So I could really like try and get this bit here right up in there, but nobody's going to see it, nobody's ever going to look at it, so it's a bit of a waste of time really. So I'm not going to do that, I'm going to leave it as it is, alright?
Yeah.
So that's the grey done for those little bits of piping. There's a little one there I'm just going to pick out. Right, so that's all the grey done. Again, you don't have to do those grey, you can just do those black if you want. I'll show you why I'm doing those grey in a minute. Next is going to be black, which is going to be case of the bolter. And again, it's just all about taking your time with it. Follow the lines. Try to be as neat as you can, but I will say that you don't have to be hugely neat.
Yeah.
So I've got a winged skull on this bolter, and I'm going to paint that probably, I don't know yet, gold, maybe silver undecided. So because of that I can paint over the top and clean it up. I'm going to paint the grip black as well. Again, just want to be a bit careful. I've just got a little bit of a fucking hand, which I'm going to do, but it's okay because again, I'm just going to highlight it. Right, I think that is going to be all the black. I think
One final check.
is done. I think what I want, yeah, I'm going to do much more than that on the black. Yeah, happy with that. So next one is going to be silver. Single sided lead belt tar. Wet palettes are amazing. I think a wet palette is probably one of the few things that I would say has really kind of like changed my painting skill.
Yeah.
Right, so the next one is going to be silver, and again, just going to block in these colours. The main thing you have to remember as well is that when you're painting models, it's your model, it's your army, it's your colour choice, whatever you want to paint.
Yeah.
Okay, right, so next step is I'm going to use some non-oil. Again, I'm going to get on my wet palette. And I'm going to be using this for shading a lot of the metallics. So one way that they get you to paint is to paint and then shade and then highlight. Now, I don't necessarily do this with everything, but I am going to do it with I do it with metallics because I just think it makes metallics pop a lot more when you shade it straight off the bat. And it just saves you a lot of time. I find non-oil for what I want is a little bit too thin, so I'm going to mix some Abaddon black and a little bit of water because it's just a little bit too thick still. And this is where my little trick comes in with some of this, because some of this I'm done with after I've just done this shade. So where I've done the ribs down in here, So I've painted them obviously grey. I'm going to take the black shade and I'm going to get it in there, and that'll be done, because what will happen is the black will obviously go into all the recesses and we'll give it a shade. And
Two birds, one stone.
And because I've already painted it grey and I've just thickened it up slightly, what will happen is it's going to make it look like a highlighted pipe or under whatever joint. I don't think anybody actually truly knows what they are. I don't know if you want to try and zoom in
on the ribs
onto those bits, because then you can see the difference between the two.
Yeah.
You got a good picture of that, so you can see the shade on the one.
Yeah, the shade on there.
And that's it. I won't touch it again. It's done. No highlight.
No.
Because it's already highlighted. No, ink, wash shades. There's so many different variations on the market, but they do take a little bit of time to dry. They don't dry as fast as paint. Admittedly, this will dry pretty quick because I've mixed it with paint. So the reason I'm doing silver then a wash is purely because I can then let that dry while I'm painting something else. So it just gives you a little bit of time saving. With the bolter, I'm just going to run over the whole thing. I'm going to run over the black as well, just to make sure the black's got a nice bit of coverage on it. Just get everything done. Again, this is what I mean when I'm talking about sort of coming around to the back and underneath this model. You'll find that using this colour in the right places will just give some natural shade, and it doesn't look as bad as not painting it completely, so you haven't got like the back of the bolter is blue, the back of the bolter is now black, because I've used this to shade it. You're going to see, the thing is with this, what we're doing today, this isn't a pro-painted tutorial. This isn't me teaching you how to paint like something where you could go into and win the Golden Demon Award. This is trying to get something painted as quickly as possible while looking, I personally think, half decent, and I think that's the key. There's a lot of videos out there now where people speed paint, and how can you get something painted as quickly as possible? And that's fair enough if that's what you want your armory to look like. Okay, I think if I am 100% correct,
Is that all the shade does it?
that is, I'm just going to have a quick nose around all the black done.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do gold now. Same again. As we're talking about, we're doing, I don't need as much as what I needed is silver. As we're talking about obviously ultramarines. These are meant to be gold, bright gold, but I'm really reluctant to do that. I will do gold, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint Balthazar gold first, because I want to have a better base. I find that that one, Retributor armor doesn't really go on as nicely as some paints. So there's only real, I think, two things I want to put, three things I want to put gold. I want to do that on the gun, chest piece, and the arm, shoulder pads, the actual trim on the shoulder pads. So just going to get a base down to this. Really being controlled with where you're putting the paint, especially now as we're getting to a point that, you know, we've painted the silver already, we've painted the inks on the silver, because that's what we've done actually, and blacks. It's all about just taking a little bit of extra time and just sticking to the bits that we need painting. But it is just about making sure you got your model supported.
Yeah.
Making sure you've got the right amount of paint on your brush, because obviously you don't want too much and you don't want too little. So after done the shoulder pads and the eagle on the gun, or the wings on the skull, the winged skull on the gun, I'm then going to ink it, because exactly the same as the silver, I think just inking, or sorry, shading the
You're just going to use flesh shade or? That's what I use.
Flesh shade.
Right,
Probably, I don't know actually. Being that I'm going to highlight it with a little bit of Liberator Gold, I'll probably do flesh shade because I don't want it to be too dark. Or darker than it really is, to be fair. So I've done the detail bits. There's a few bits I've gone over. See, I really like that combination, that dark blue.
No, yeah, move it center.
And
Oh yeah, I've done
that dark blue and what's it called? So because I've spent the first part doing the detailed bit, it just means you can just be a bit more relaxed and heavy-handed with it now.
The bottom bit, yeah.
Compared to, I think that's always.
That's how I did it.
It's always the best way to do it, I find, is to get the details done first. Get the hard bit done. Get the bit that's going to take you longer to do more than anything else, because it just means you don't have to focus for so long on such a small space. Again, you know, I could really try and get as deep with the brush to paint the whole of those bits of the shoulder pads up around there, but nobody's going to look at it, so you know, what's the point? It's a table top sort of standard model, really. It's not I don't know if you understand that actual sort of concept, mate. I'm not sure if that's something you've ever really sort of had to encounter yet. So you've got obviously different concepts of how you paint. So this is tabletop standard. So basically you put it on the table, it looks pretty fucking good, it's painted, everybody gets, oh, look, your models are really good. Not because they look really good, but because they look really good together. When you've got a whole unit or a whole army of painted models. Now obviously you then go to like sort of like this pro painted kind of level, which is obviously something that you're going to do competitions and, you know, to actually win.
Yeah, I'm never going to do that.
For painting your model. Also, if you're ever going to do tournaments, I think they do a lot of awards for how well you've painted your models in the tournament as well. So that's pretty much all the gold bits on it. I'm quite glad I went with this Balthazar gold over Liberator gold, because it just fits the darkness of his armour, to be honest. And that is Roigman Fresh Shade. So this I'm just going to use pretty much straight out of the pot. I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm not going to make it thicker or more watered down. But yeah, just a quick coat of Fresh Shade on all the gold that I've just done. Just again, makes it punch out quite nicely. So I'm gonna very quickly show you how to highlight, how I highlight. So obviously this is going to really punch the armour a lot lighter. So I've got three colours. Obviously I've got the
Leviathan.
Blue, obviously McCrag Blue, and we also got Corax White, because that's the paint you've got. If it was me doing it and I was doing, if you were highlighting a lot more, I would potentially buy
lighter blue.
a lighter blue.
I think there was one called like Calgar Blue or something. Yeah,
so that's probably where I would go with that. From there, what you're going to do is obviously identify your edges. So let's start with obviously the legs. So what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to make a little lighter blue using the Corax White and some of the McCrag Blue.
You need a wet palette, man.
The problem with GW is when they're doing their stuff is they sell it along the lines of you need to buy loads of different colours. You need to buy like 4 different colours, okay? You need to get one colour that's going to be your base colour, and then you need another colour that's going to be your highlight colour, then you need another colour that's going to be your low light colour, and then you need another colour that's going to be your edge highlight colour. You don't need that many, to be honest. So what I've done, I've just put a little bit of lighter blue down, and I'm going to put some of this down straight away. It's just too light for what I want, so that's cool. So it's going to take some of this and just put this, add this into it. And basically what we're doing is a system called wet blending. And the idea behind this is that you take 2 paints and you blend them together. And what that does is make a very seamless highlight. This will end up taking a lot of the dark colour out of this Space Marine, unfortunately, as I really like the sort of like navy blue, but it is what it is. And we just go straight away down to the next one. I'm going to take a bit more McCrag Blue because I don't want it that bright. Right, so I've toned down the highlight a little bit because it was just a little bit too dark, a little bit too light for what I wanted. So what I'm doing is going around all the edges with this lighter blue.
Yeah.
And then taking the crag blue
And going over it.
and filling in the middle while blending the top and bottom highlight. So this is really giving me a very, very different blue.
Yeah, it's very different from what the undercoat or the base coat
But
was.
that's wet, and if you can see around here where it's dried a lot lighter. Sorry, it's dried a lot darker. But also,
It's very out of focus for some reason.
the paint on these bits hasn't gone on extremely well because obviously it's darker underneath. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that bit, let that dry, go onto a different bit, because you don't want to paint the same bit while it's wet. Alright?
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a little bit more of my highlight colour, and I'm going to use my highlight colour to start with, and I'm going to get it right, so basically edge highlight as it were.
I just think I don't know what edges to put it on.
So, well, that's not actually that dumb a question actually, because there are loads of different schools of thought with this.
There's like shade involved with it as well.
So what I do is there are people that will paint their model, and there's some really great videos out there about light source and basically where's the light coming from. So and that's how you know where to paint your models, where you paint the highlights.
Yeah, this is where the light hits the armour, isn't it?
So there's one guy, I can't pronounce it, I can't actually think of the name at the moment. There's one guy who does it, and he's like, right, the sun's, or the light source is the top right hand side over the guy's shoulder. And that's great. And then one side's really light, one side's really dark. And it looks amazing, but it's not what I want for my models.
Because the thing is, you'll spin it around. Say if you're playing a game where you'll spin it, sometimes you'll see it from different angles and different lights. It's just going to be.
And I think if you do your whole army like that, then it look really cool and all the rest of it. But what I want when I'm doing my stuff is I want it to look like. I suppose that wherever you're looking at the model, that's where the highlight's coming from.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where the model is, you can still see that highlight sort of all the way around.
So what I've just done is use some of my low lights as well, just to get a little bit of shade back into the crevices of this foot, because obviously there is a lot of bits and pieces. I'm now going back to the highlight colour just to work some of that into the edges again. And I'm going to take some of this contrast paint. The reason why I picked this contrast paint was because it's blue. And it's dark blue.
It's not black.
It's not black. It's not brown.
It does blend in with the armour quite
It's
nice.
not. You know, we're painting blue armour, so the low light colour that I want is going
Blue.
to be blue.
No, I mean.
Now I'm doing with this bit now. I'm doing some lining.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty much finished with this foot. I'm going to take a very small amount of the lightest colour and I'm going to water it down a hell of a lot, because I really want it to be watery. Have a look at the back, same thing, just going to start this time. There's not going to be so much highlight with this. So I'm just going to get in a nice base coat of bright blue. I'm going to use that probably as my highlight, and I'm probably going to leave it alone. Do I want to? Yeah, do that. So I'll do it again. So what I've noticed is, like I said, this paint, it's just the darkness is coming through underneath. Don't get me wrong, that is still going to make it look darker than what it would be if when you do yours, because yours is blue under white, so yours is actually going to look relatively what's it called?
Light anyway.
Light underneath.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is change the tack a little bit, and I am just going to give this a cheeky base coat of McCrag blue. So what I like about paint, mate, is sometimes you just got to change what you're doing on the fly. Yeah, that works really well. No, that's not, and you just do something different. So I'm going to give it a coat of McCrag blue. Let that dry. Now the reason I'm doing it that way is at the moment I've done one coat here. It's dried.
I'll just grab the screwdriver a bit.
Yeah, I've done one coat there. It's dried, but it hasn't dried enough for me just to do one coat. Blocking in the colours while I'm doing it now will mean that instead of painting over something I've already highlighted, what I'm going to do now is actually highlight over that top. So the second coat, so base coat, then a highlight coat. This one's going to be, I'm going to have to re-highlight it, because obviously you can't just base coat a highlight coat. It's very simple. Just get some paint, make sure it's nice and wet. I know that sounds stupid.
Nice and wet.
But
yeah,
it does dry pretty quick. Straight into the McCrag blue, and then you just go straight down, mix it together, and then go up, mix it together.
you're doing that for the whole model.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while.
No, because once you get the system done,
You already suppose you know what you're doing, don't you?
you can blast through it really quick. And it's all about, for me, subtle differences in the colour of the armour. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it is nice to have something that looks really punchy and it really stands out.
Yeah.
But then sometimes something subtle looks really cool as well. So with this blend, what I'm doing now, this is just going to look massively subtle. It's even going to, you know, potentially not even look highlight unless you look at it closely, which is great in a way, and that's the look I want to go for. But unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, it doesn't always work like that, because when you, I love that crispy blend. Crispy highlighted. Love that. That looks really cool. Happy with that. Every day of the week.
Yeah, I think I might try and build my paint skill up before I start doing proper like highlighting and stuff.
How are you going to build your paint skill up, mate, if you don't try it?
I suppose.
Right, so that foot is pretty much done, and the shim part. I'm going to do this one, next, and I'm going to start with the actual shoulder pads. I'm going to go around the back, and again I'm going to take my low light colour, sorry, my highlight colour, get that on and around. Just be super careful because obviously we've got some finished stuff on the back that we don't want to have to repaint. So I'm going to edge all the panels as well. Come down and around like that. And take it down to that corner, take it up to that corner. Grab some crack glue and just blend it together. The biggest tip ever when it comes to painting models and highlighting is you don't get OTT with paint. So again, going on the Games Workshop standard of how you do stuff, you pick up a paint, you then say like Macragge blue for example, perfect example. What's the highlight colour? Calgar blue, I think. Did you say Calgar blue?
Calgar blue, I think it was. No, it was. I think it was Calgar blue or Calgar grey or something.
But
Calgar something.
that's in the highlight colour is that grey, is that blue. So what you've got is two separate colours. And what people do is they take the one colour and they just highlight it with the second. Sometimes the contrast is way too powerful. By taking, you look what I've done. I've got a light, a medium, and a dark. I've also got two extra ones that I've mixed up.
Just for like certain.
I'm not using the light, and I'm not really using that dark apart from pin lighting. Pin lighting.
Not really in focus there, but I know you're trying to do something.
Getting into the panel lighting. And then what happens is the contrast is too bright, too much, it doesn't look right, and then it just doesn't work. So what you do is you take your colours and you make sure that they're closer together. So if you were going to use, for example, well, I'll give you a perfect example with what you've got here. You've got these two browns, Death Cool Brown and Dryad Bark. Pronounce that properly. And if you use those as a highlight and a shade, oh my god, a base and a highlight, it would look absolutely ridiculous because it would just be too much of a contrast. Don't get me wrong, if that's the look you're going for and you really want it to be that contrast, then great, but it's not really.
So with the certain, like you literally mix in one paint and like one contrast.
Yeah, if I was to highlight brown, for example, depending on obviously what you're trying to highlight as well.
You just give it some white, make it a bit lighter.
I would say if I was going to start with Dryad Bark, for example, as my base coat. What I would do is use the two mixed together for the first highlight. So with the dark brown as your sort of base colour, you then use the next one for your low light and go on from there really. And just keep adding into it and just keep adding more paint till you get what you want. And the other thing as well is I'm using one brush all the way through.
Is that a small layer or is it?
No, it's a medium layer brush.
Shit.
Thing with a brush is if you've got a point, it doesn't matter what size it is. Any time I'd ever use a, what's it called, brush?
Small layer one.
A small layer brush is if I'm doing things like eyes just because I want a smaller brush. But as long as you've got a point, you're laughing, really. What I'm going to do just to finish is get the lighter colour that is watered down, and I'm just going to touch, get a bit of the edge just to make it a little bit more punchier. Right, so what's going on now is I have obviously painted all blue, gone through and not only have I painted all the blue, but I have done all the edge highlighting and some pin lining as well. Alright, so he's all pretty much done. I'm probably going to look at the shoulder pads again because I just want to dry a little bit. So while I'm waiting for it to dry, we are just going to boss out some metallic details. Quick highlight, nothing too fucking nuts because obviously we've low lighted it quite a lot. So literally just with a very small amount of lead belcher, I'm just going to go over some of the little details. How's that looking?
It's in focus.
Let's go over some of the details that are actually just got a little bit of highlight in places. Nothing too crazy because I want it a bit dark. Brush most places. Cool. And then I'm just going to pick out a couple of bits. I'm not going nuts on this, but I'm just going to bring it in just to shine it up a little bit.
That's good. Where it is now.
And again, you know, this isn't meant to be a side colour. So when you're doing yours, if you did this differently from me, you would get a lot better shine on yours.
Yeah, so what I did was Balthazar gold, and then instead of just highlighting it with the Retribution armor, I just covered the entire, everything that was gold, just coated in it.
Yeah, so, but that's just going to give you a better gold finish.
Yeah.
Depends what you want. I didn't really want that shining gold on it. So obviously it's now brightened up, but it's not too bright. It's not in your face bright. It just looks gold. Just come out really well, like that. Just gonna bang out a little bit on the bolt gun. 2 nuts. Now, being that you've got a restricted palette, I'm going to use some right clean flesh shade.
What, in the eyes?
Just to make them look a bit recessed and darker. And again, I'm dealing with a limited palette here, so a couple of options. I'm just going to fill in the middle bit with some Mephiston red. While leaving a bit around the centre ring. Very small dab of white. And the question is, where do you put your dab of white?
I mean, just put it near the back, don't you? Like the back of
Because
the
the
eyes.
problem you got, right, when you look at this, so I'm going to get
A speck of white. It's literally all it's got in it, like a little dab.
my little speck of white.
Is it on one? Or I can't remember if it was on both eye bits or if it was just one.
Well, in theory, if the light's coming down a certain way, it would be the opposite place. If the light's coming down here, it'd be like one would be there.
Yeah.
But being that the light is coming down that way, so this is really not
Necessary.
this is for visual purposes only, and actually nothing to do with
Painting the Space Marine.
with actual proper proper light, not light, paint, colour, whatever the technical term is. Paint theory. Colour theory. That's not a paint theory. Colour theory. Doesn't go very well.
White.
Let's get some fresh white on. It's just dry on the wet palette, to be honest.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, we might have to skip that bit. Very small white dot. Just in the corner. And then what I want to do, I'm going to take a very little bit of red. We'll probably use orange if we had orange, but we don't. So use a little bit of pink. And just put a very small bit. I think I'm going to call that done.
Yep.